Wired is now reporting that there is something sus about the metadata in the Jeffrey Epstein prison video, that the prison video was likely modified. Okay, let's try to understand this for a moment because there's a lot. Obviously, what we're referring to is that missing minute first in the Jeffrey Epstein prison footage. Now, keep in mind regarding the Epstein CCTV footage, that missing minute where people have memed Hillary Clinton walking in, right? Which is funny. But we gotta focus on it seriously for a moment. Why would the cameras go, whether or not this is even the correct angle that we need, why would the cameras jump from 11:59 to 12? Watch in about 5 seconds here. Ba-ba-da, ba-da-ba, and boom. It's odd, right? It's almost like these cameras run 23:59:7 instead of 24:7, which is odd. You know, were the cameras restarting during that time? Is that even necessary at that point? A lot of conspiracies around this. But this is now new information. The Justice Department released nearly 11 hours of footage of what it described as the full raw surveillance video from the camera positioned near Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell. And again, they're referring to this as the raw footage, so unedited. The release was intended to address conspiracy theories, but instead of putting those suspicions to rest, it may fuel them even further. Metadata in the video, analyzed by Wired and independent video forensic experts. Imagine that as a job title. Yeah, I'm an independent video forensic expert. Damn, that's a mouthful. But anyway, shows that rather than being a direct export from the surveillance system, the footage was modified, likely using the editing tool Adobe Premiere Pro. So in other words, like when you record a video file, you would normally just get that directly from your camera, raw, right out of the camera. You don't have to go drag it into some form of processor unless maybe you're gonna do a little bit of editing to it. For example, when I make videos like the video that we're making now, here's an example of what they look like when I make them. So I just go in here and I get these raw MP4 files because that's how we record them on a Windows PC, which then beams over to this shared Dropbox on the network. Well, these files would not show up in in Final Cut Pro. Whereas if I now take a file that I'm going to export, I might be able to drag those pieces into, let's say, Final Cut Pro, for example. Here's the WTF video file. And what I'm able to do is I'm able to go in here and cut out the beginning or add some music or whatever to the front, or maybe cut out, a minute, which actually is what I do in my footage, except I'm not running, prison CCTV footage. But as you can see, this is exactly the same file right here, but when I drag it into Final Cut, what I'm actually doing here is I'm gonna cut out that little front portion of dead space where I'm not saying anything, right? And then there you go. The file footage basically now lines up. But now when I export it, the metadata is going to say it was manipulated in Final Cut rather than coming from my recording source, right? Okay, that's really interesting. The files appear to have been assembled from at least 2 source clips, which in fairness, if you look you don't even have to look that closely, but when you look at this video clip, you could see this sort of like change in angle almost, or not maybe angle, but this positioning. Like why does it look like the compression is slightly different, or like somebody dragged it out a little to the left more, the video clip? See how one looks wider than the other, right? Weird. Those things could be mistakes. Like if I'm in here, I could theoretically grab this clip and accidentally have it be zoomed in a little bit more. So it would actually look like this when it clicks over. See that little punch in right there? It's because it's been manipulated. So it doesn't actually help prove that it wasn't manipulated. In fact, it just proves that it probably was manipulated. Like, even if the camera restarted during that time, why would it have to go into an editing software, right? Like, I have a lot of CCTV cameras as well, and usually if you're gonna have cameras set to a restart, you'd have an overlap angle. So when one's restarting, the other one's not restarting at the same time, and they cover each other. That's the point of personal surveillance technology. But anyway, or in this case, commercial prison cell technology, where you would expect it to be perfect. But anyway, the files appear to have been assembled from at least 2 source clips, saved multiple times, exported, then uploaded to the DOJ's website, where it was presented as raw footage. Don't tell us something's raw when it's not raw. Experts caution that it's unclear what was changed, and the metadata does not prove that it was deceptive. The video could simply have been processed for public release. I mean, that's also possible. I could drop it in here, right? If I go into Final Cut, let's go back into here, and let's say I go to a file export, and I want to pick a file type. I could go in here and I could choose H.264, or I could do Apple ProRes. The problem is, if I go Apple ProRes full, it's going to be a 90 gigabyte export. Whereas if I go to H.264, it's a 4 gigabyte export. And this is 1080 at 30, right? So this is just an example where, sure, you could also use Adobe just to compress the file footage. But again, missing minute, it's in an editor, one spread a little wider than another. Come on, like as a video creator, it smells a little sus, you know? Especially when you tell us it's raw. You know, it's kind of like Pam Bondi. It's on my desk. What desk? The memes. Anyway, the video may simply have been processed for public release, sure. Case is already clouded. For months leading up to the joint memo published Monday, Pam Bondi promised the release of files relating to Epstein. However, rather than revealing new information, the memo largely confirmed conclusions reached years earlier, that he was found dead by suicide, and basically they just reiterated, the conspiracy information, basically. Or not the conspiracy, the original information from which people started, scratching their heads a little bit going, what, this isn't lining up, right? Because to say conspiracy almost sounds like we're discounting what's going on, which we don't want to do that, because what's going on is weird. And Guilfoyle just happened to also suddenly die a few months ago. Also kind of weird. Just saying. But anyway, she was a big, a big person in terms of, making these allegations against Epstein and coming forward with details around whom she was basically, escorted around with. But anyway, according to the FBI, anyone entering the area containing Epstein's cell during the relevant time frame would have been visible on that camera. Wired downloaded the video file released by the Department of Justice, which was described as a full raw surveillance footage. Epstein's prison cell the night before he was found dead. To analyze the metadata, we ran the file through a tool called EXIF tool. Below is the embedded metadata, with information related to the reporter's personal device, excluded. So this is the size, this is the tool they ran, MP4, compatible brands, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. Working with 2 independent experts, Wired examined the footage. Using metadata tools, exporters analyzed both, this is too much for me, EXIF and XMP data, okay, to identify signs of post-processing. Okay, basically putting it into like Adobe, right? The raw files show clear signs of having been processed using an Adobe product based on metadata that specifically references file extensions used by Adobe. Oh, this is like a pitch for Adobe here. Adobe leaves traces in exported files, often embedding metadata that logs which assets were used and what actions were taken during the edit. In this case, the metadata indicates the file was saved at least 4 times over a 23-minute time span by a Windows user account called MJ Cole1. Who's MJ Cole? Find MJ Cole now. The metadata does not show whether the footage was modified before each time it was saved. The embedded data suggests that the video is not a continuous, unaltered export from a surveillance system. These entries appear under metadata sections labeled ingredients as part of Adobe's internal schema. An expert analyzed the detection of manipulated data and has detected, blah, blah, blah. He says the metadata raises immediate concerns about the chain of custody and the document handling of this. If a lawyer brought me this file and I asked if it was suitable for court, and I was asked if it was suitable for court, I'd say no, go back to the source and do it right. Do a direct export from the original system, no monkey business. The video's aspect ratio also shifts noticeably at several points. Exactly. That's that stretchy thing I was showing you. Now, they caution that while metadata clearly show the video was modified, the changes could be benign. For example, converting footage from, but sure, proprietary surveillance format to MP4, that's fine, like I showed you with the Apple ProRes, in this case to MP4. But why did the aspect ratio change? At that moment, it's just weird. Had around 150 cameras. Why don't they show all the other cameras that have a missing clip? I mean, I guess they could just edit those too. Apparently only 2 operational cameras, despite the facility having 150 cameras. Weird. The footage confirms from the time that Epstein was locked in his cell between 10:40 p.m. to 6:30 the next morning. No one entered the tier where he's located. However, the recording includes a noticeable gap. About 1 minute and 2 seconds is missing. Video resumes immediately afterwards. Blah, blah, blah. The gaps in the video, along with this metadata, are certainly suspicious. Wow! The story just keeps going. This is crazy. Well, let's just say, I would never kill myself, and I have life insurance, thanks to metkevin.com/life, a sponsor of the channel. Go check them out, metkevin.com/life. You know me now, so metkevin.com/life, paid sponsor of the channel. Get life insurance in as little as 5 minutes, Apple Pay or Android Pay.
Kevin is very talented, but I don't know if it's going to be him, but he's a very talented guy.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.